Hi, welcome. My name is Dr. Roncoroni, and we will be talking a little bit about thriving through the holidays. There we go. So I'm going to skip introductions, but I'll tell you a little bit about me. I am a licensed psychologist. I own a private practice where I very often work with moms and also with couples. I am an associate professor in counseling psychology at DU. I got my PhD in counseling psychology at the University of Florida in 2016. And before I did that, so before I graduated from the University of Florida, I was for a year at Harvard in one of their hospitals training, also working with families. I'm bilingual Spanish English. I grew up in Argentina. I lived there for 25 years before I moved to the US to become a psychologist. And I'm a mom of two living children. I have two daughters who are almost 2 and 7, and we lost a son in 2020. Some ground rules, no mom shaming, no mom shaming. I have been doing this for a long while, and I know how tough it can be to have these conversations, to even think about this stuff. So my vote is we don't shame each other, we support each other. What is secure attachment? We'll talk a little bit about that, but the basic premise of secure attachment is that the child feels comforted by the presence of the caregiver. We will see on social media, on Instagram, on Facebook, on that attachment can mean a lot of different things for different people. I'm running on the evidence-based definition, and we'll see why in a minute. And then last I'll say is I am not your Instagram mom, right? For all that means, I love working with families. I love having a family. I am not your Instagram mom. I go back to the point number one, no mom shaming. Secure attachment, what does it mean? Child feels safe. The child feels seen and known. The child feels comfort and reassurance. The child feels valued. The child feels supported to explore. I don't see anything here that says that we can't say shit sometimes, right? So that's okay. We can feel that frustration. We can feel annoyed. We can flip at times, and our child will be okay for as long as they're feeling safe and they feel like they have that secure base. I am naming this because there's a lot of what we feel that is then exacerbated by the mom guilt, right? So we think we should be doing something because I saw it on Instagram. I think that I should give my child this or that toy because I saw someone on Instagram who has it on Facebook and whatever. I can't do that for financial reasons, for logistical reasons, for I don't believe that that toy is actually good for my kid at this age, at this point in their lives. But so-and-so has it. And so maybe I should, right? Or I'm making dinner at 7 p.m. and I have an email from work coming in, and my mom is calling, and my child is losing their mind, and my husband can't find their whatever that they lost. And I turn around and I drop that F-bomb. I go back, right? Or as long as your children are safe and they feel seen and they feel known, that's okay. I am not here to promote as saying bad words. I don't think that's the point. But to me, the point is that we think of when we do some of these things that then we're like, oh, that one doesn't sit with me. What often happens is we go to bed and then our brains start going, right? Oh, you did this. Oh, you did that. You shouldn't have yelled. You shouldn't have been mean. You shouldn't have said this. You shouldn't have said that. Why would you do that, right? This is what they did to you. I promise I'd be doing all that rhetoric, right? And what often happens is the feelings get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. That's food for our feelings, right? And so if we feed them, and this often happens in the holidays, right? When we're trying to get that thing wrapped and make dinner and pick up the phone. Oh, wait, there's someone at the door and my child's losing their mind. Why will they not take a shower? And then we snap, or we feel that, or we just feel like, you know what, if I could move to the mountains this afternoon, I'd be out, right? We don't move to the mountains and we go back to that. We continue to be a safe base, but at the same time, the guilt makes it worse, right? It exacerbates those feelings. What do I mean when I say the mom guilt? It's negative thoughts. It can be doing too much, right? Trying to be, because I have to make every part of this meal. And I know that my neighbor will do it, or so-and-so's mom will do it. Perfectionism. It's not just that I'm making the bread for a meal. It's that it has to be the bread, right? I'm tired. I woke up. I was sharing earlier that I'm now doing sleep training. I'm not saying sleep training is for everybody. I'm saying it's for our family today, right? I'm tired. Am I more bound when this happens to do something or say something that then I'm like, ouch? Yeah, right. Because I'm less regulated. And when I'm less regulated, I'm bound to not think as clearly, to act more on impulse, right? Physical illness, burnout is real. And so when we're not sleeping for a whole season trying to get things ready, we're more likely to be not only tired, but also sick, right? Our immune systems go down. Negative thoughts. I'm not as good. My children need a better parent. I am not a good partner because I'm too busy parenting, right? Depression and anxiety and addictive behaviors. And addictive behaviors can mean many things. It can mean overeating. It can mean over drinking. It can mean, whoa, it's 1 p.m. and I've already had 5 cups of coffee, right? Why am I still tired? Right? It can mean what we often do before bed of, oh, finally, they're all in bed, right? We all have those plans after 7 p.m. They're out and we're like, oh, I'm going to be so productive because I'm going to read that book and I'm going to do this for me. And what ends up often happening is we scroll, right? And so, and then we get fed all that info of this is what you should look like. And you didn't look like that today. And then the guilt keeps going up. Mom guilt bingo, right? These are some of the things that all of us or many of us have experienced at some point, right? Guilt, so that we've experienced guilt over at least at some points, right? Pizza for dinner. Why am I not feeding my children vegetables? What's going to happen to them if I don't? I yelled this morning. I used TV. I just needed 5 minutes for myself. I needed a shower. And I sat them in front of the TV, right? Yoga pants, a pickup, right? Incomplete baby book. Fail to cherish every moment today. Why am I not loving this? Right? If you see, you'll see many images, right? We all do, of these moms who are just, this is beautiful. And my child is my best friend. Meanwhile, Johnny sitting right next to me just peed on the floor. I'm not feeling the cherishing every moment, right? And I'm naming this because it's so hard to, one, say it out loud, and then two, be honest with ourselves about it, right? Of, I don't know that I want to be here, right? I don't know that I want to be cleaning pee off the floor as Johnny still yelling at me because I didn't, right? They wanted the sausage cut and I cut it in half and they didn't want it in half, they wanted it in thirds, right? And I can't quite put it together with glue. Birthday party wasn't Pinterest worthy. Non-organic produce purchase, work outside the home, right? That's the big one that we're 2022 and we're still living by 1950s values in so many ways. High fructose corn syrup, wine or sushi after conception. Why did I run that race after I got pregnant? I saw on Instagram that someone ran a race and then this happened, right? He's still not potty trained. Phone at the park. Do not check your phone at the park. What kind of a mother, right? In that rhetoric, car seat faces forward. You forgot pajama day, picture day, any of that at school. You won't buy them a puppy because you need to be cleaning more pee off the floor, right? Preschool, right? Preschooler knows a 4-letter word. And I'm going to go back to, I am not here to advocate that we run around saying bad words, but I am saying that our attachment with our children does not depend on us saying 4-letter words here and there. They actually in some ways think that it's healthy for our children to hear us be frustrated at times and then go back and repair to say, hey, you know what? I was really tired and I said this word. And I just wanted to say that maybe that didn't help you or me in that moment. So I'm sorry that I said it. Done. Next activity, right? Throw away their artwork. We know how much crap comes back from schools, right? And then it piles. Something's got to go. There is no space. It's September 2022. There is no space in most of our houses to collect this much junk. I'm not saying our work is junk, but kind of. Happy meals for lunch. Had an epidural. Still haven't lost the baby weight. Discontinued breastfeeding before 1 year. Didn't read to them today. Hiding in the bathroom, because if you have not hidden in the bathroom after 7 p.m. for 5 minutes from your children, you have not lived, right? Most of us have done it, and most of our children are totally fine. Screen time of any kind or of any length. Mom guilt, the holiday version, right? And so all of this guilt that we regularly feel, that I would say daily feel, gets on steroids for the holidays, right? It gets exacerbated by the holidays because there is more stress, right? And so I wrote here a case of comparison, right? But it is, well, this child has the gift and my child is going to want the gift and I can't afford it, but I might as well use my credit card and get like just swim in debt so that I can get them, right? Pressure to throw the perfect party. Everybody has to be picture perfect. The food has to be awesome and homemade. Like kids from school, free time, right? We have this fantasy of, oh, in December, I'm going to get a week off work and it's going to be so awesome. You don't even know, right? And then we get to December, and again, Shawnee is peeing on the floor while the other one is trying to pull their hair because they had that toy first. My phone's ringing because my relative wants to know what kind of bread they should be getting. My husband's at the store and he doesn't know what kind of fruit he should be getting, right? And then we drop the F-bomb, or then we just flip and go to the bathroom and sit for 5 minutes and go shh and breathe, right? More chores, tons more to do than during regular periods of the year, less sleep, and more bickering. There's also, oops, my bad, travel, right? Which gets us all dysregulated. Relatives we may or may not like, the family members that we're spending time with, or we may like them, but we may or may not want to be sitting at that table with them during this specific season for whatever reason, right? I've worked with many clients who have said things like, you know, I'm trying to date and my family members are really judgmental and I love them deeply, but this is not a good period for me to be sitting around them as they're making comments about dating. Or I just made the decision about my life, whatever that is, right? And now I have to have them asking me questions about it. And I don't necessarily want to be answering questions right now because I don't know what the answer is, or I don't want to share my answer at the moment. Grief. Many of us have lost relatives that we love. Again, I share that for us, that was our son in 2020. And so there's always a special place for that, right? And there are feelings that come up that sometimes come up when we want them to come up, and sometimes they just do, right? I'm standing at the store and I see their favorite XYZ, and here we go, right? And then loneliness, right? Some of us have relatives that we're spending the holidays with, but I work with many moms, for example, who are recently divorced and they won't have the children during this period. What do I do with these feelings? What can I do so that I can survive the holidays, or that I can survive this or that specific day? We're going to work here on kissing the mom guilt bye-bye, right? So how do we, even when there are tons of things that we can't control around us, right? Because we can't control the pressure to be, right, to feed organic produce, right? We can't control the push to lose weight, right? We go out on the street, we drive our car, and we see something on the road that says, oh, you're overweight. Still, you don't look like her. You should look like her, right? Or to feel like we need to be picture perfect and that we need to throw all these, amazing parties and buy these awesome gifts. We can resist some of that, right? I'm one voting for kissing the mom guilt bye-bye. How do I do that, right? And that's so difficult because the mom, I took notes here, but essentially, I'm not sold on the idea that we will ever stop feeling guilt. Because our guilt is information. Our guilt is saying, you want to make sure that your children are safe. You want to make sure that your children are happy. You want to make sure that your children grow up to be successful humans, right? Or that they are successful as they can. And I don't mean financially successful. I mean happy, thriving humans, right? So that guilt in part is information, but there are pieces of that guilt that are actually really disruptive, that are hurting us, that are not conducive to anything. And those are the pieces that I'm saying, how do we keep those in check? Even if we don't get rid of the guilt, right? Just notice, hey, whoa, you're here again, letting me know that my food is not organic, that it's not homemade, that it's not, yeah, I'm okay with that, right? And being able to own the guilt and then do something about it, right? Do something productive with the feeling. Let me see if I can pull up my notes. So steps, own your mom guilt. 2, and we'll go into each step in just a sec. Find the root of your guilt. 3, come up with an action plan. And then 4, coping mode. Okay. So we all know that the guilt is real again, right? And it's likely not going to go away. But what I'm asking us to do is take a second and think. Before we can actually do anything about it, we have to know it's here, right? So own our guilt. Think of, I'll go back to, I think I shared earlier that we started sleep training last night, right? What are the things that are coming up for me in this period? What are the things that are triggering me? What are the voices that I'm hearing, right? What are they saying? Well, you're a bad mom because you shouldn't let your child cry. You're a bad mom because you should not try to sleep at night. You made the decision to have, right? Saying something in the chat. I can't see the chat. There we go. What are those voices that we're hearing, right? What are they saying? Taking the time to really, really deeply think about, are they complaining about my food? Are they complaining about the way I look? Are they complaining about, or all of the above, right? And who do they sound like? Where are they coming from, right? Where did I get this message before? And so thinking too of, this may have worked really well for my aunt, for my mom. It may not work that well for me because my aunt didn't work and I do, or because my mom was in a heterosexual relationship. I'm not, right? My grandma was divorced and I'm not, right? And so how does this fit with my landscape, right? Once you hear the voices, you know that they're there and they're saying, you should not let your child talk back like that. You should not you should not snap at your children. Where are those voices coming from? What are they telling you about you? And how do they fit in the current landscape, in the reality that you're living right now? If you have the time to do it, I highly encourage you to write this down. Even if you then throw the piece of paper away, I know that finding a piece of paper and kind of having the capacity to sit down and write this can take a minute, but I also think it can make the exercise more memorable and longer lasting in our experience. Finding the root. So again, we tell ourselves excuses, right? And it makes sense that we do, right? Well, I just haven't had the time to do that. I just haven't had the energy to do that, right? And I'm not saying that we ditch those, because it's less, it's not necessarily valuable that we do. And also because that information is protecting us, right? If I say, I am not exercising and taking care of myself because I don't have time, right? That's likely a part of it, right? Being mom is exhausting. But at the same time, is it possible that we're also not exercising because we're scared of the outcome, because we don't know what will happen at the end of this, because I don't know how to exercise, I don't know what to do, because I'm embarrassed to show up at the gym, because whatever it is, right? And here's where I'm asking that we think, right? So finding the voice was owning your guilt. I don't look the way that I would like to look. And I'm not advocating that you look like anybody else or that you look the way that you are told. But if you're feeling like, hey, I'm looking at this and I'm looking at the landscape, I'm looking at myself and this is not sitting with me, then why? Finding that root, right? Why am I feeling this way? Why is this happening? Am I comparing myself to people on social media? Have I picked an imaginary, I call it the imaginary enemies, right? But we all have that mama pickup that we look at her and go, well, life is sure perfect for some people, right? As we show up in our yoga pants, our hair is a mess. We're screaming at our kid who's already in the car trying to get to our next destination because we have 3 more things to do before we get home, right? All of that, right? Why are you feeling this way? And then thinking too of, okay, then what can you do about it, right? So if you are, for example, if you are comparing yourself with people on social media, right? Can you start unfollowing some people? Can you start setting boundaries, right? I worked with a client this week who said, I am having this experience in my life, and it relates to gender, and I'm very uncomfortable having these conversations. I'm uncomfortable sitting at the table with, right, especially in the context of being a mom, sitting at the dinner table for the holidays, knowing that I'm going to be asked questions, knowing that I'm going to have to answer questions for which I don't necessarily have a clean, linear answer right now. What do I do? How do I set boundaries and say, actually, that's not a conversation that I'm ready to have right now. I appreciate the interest. I appreciate the concern. Or, hey, you know what? I said I was going to make the dinner rolls every year I do. This year, I actually spent the hour at the park with my children. Didn't happen, right? How do we get to that point? What's our plan? And it's hard to move from feeling guilt to, okay, now it's fixed, right? And I'm not presuming in any way that guilt can disappear. I am saying, how do we slowly think of, okay, I am feeling this specific way. Why am I feeling this specific way? What are options that I have, right? My client sits with me and says, what do I do? I don't know. What do you do? Right. And I'm not saying, well, I don't know, it's your problem. What I am saying is there are 50 options here, much as we like to think that the world is zeros and ones, right? That there's one linear, clean response. And if we don't know, it's because there's something wrong with us, right? How do we think of, these are my 7 options that I have, my 12 options that I have. And I go back to that question about what fits with my family right now, what fits with my landscape right now, right? I wear a shoe size 8.5, right? If you wear a shoe size 5 and I say, hey, do you want my 8.5? That won't work for you, right? It won't work for you. And me saying, well, I guess you're broken, right? Because it works for me. My shoes are great. They're great. I actually did buy them. They're new. Still no, right? They don't fit your foot, right? They don't, or feet, right? And so that's what I'm inviting us to do, right? Think of, with the life that I have right now, specifically thinking of the holidays, with the finances that I have right now, with the relationships that I have right now, with the time that I have right now, what is actually feasible for me? My husband would tell me, divide it by 5 and you'll mostly end where you should. So I'm always the one to say, why don't we take 30 minutes and then we can get this done and that done and then that done. And he always says divided by 5, right? So move from that ideal perfectionism, aspirational, to now this is what's actually real and tangible for me. And coping mode, living out the plan of attack, right? And this one's a tricky one too, because there's lots of pushback, right? We try something, we say, you know what? I'm actually not going to drink this holiday. Are you pregnant? Are you sick? Were you having a drinking problem? No, I just don't want to drink today. Why? Right. And so it's right. I've had clients who say I struggle with anger management when I drink a little too much. And I know that once I start and it's the holidays, I kind of go down a slippery slope. I don't want to drink. And then we start getting pushback, right? Why are you not making your bread? But your bread is so good. But why, right? And so kind of holding on to that. This is what fits for my family right now. This is what fits for and this is why I'm advocating that we write some of this down. That's a pain to do it, right? It truly is, because no one has time for that. But at the same time, I do think that having something that we're physically holding on to can help with, as I'm walking into that dinner party, or as I'm opening my door for people to start walking into my house, how do I hold on to this in a way that when I start spinning, I still have it with me, right? So I drink too much and I don't feel good about my drinking, right? It's not my experience, but it's the experience of clients that I worked with. I drink too much. I don't feel good about it because when I drink, I do things that don't make me feel good, right? I yell at my children or snap at my partner, or I had silly accidents in the kitchen, right? Why am I feeling this way, right? And so those answer that question. What could I do? I could never drink again. I could make the decision to stop at 2 drinks. I get right. What are options that are actually viable and feasible for me? And then holding on to that physically, right? A piece of paper that has, it can be your phone, it can be, whatever it is, right? It doesn't, I grew up in the 80s in Argentina. Everything is a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be a piece of paper. It can be your phone. It can be something that physically you have with you. I believe that there's learning in that motor exercise of writing, and there's research that shows that actually. But even if you write it on your phone, holding on to that. And then when I get pushback, how am I going to say, no, actually, this is what's better for me right now? All right, I think I'm going to stop at that. Quick tips. I have faces in the middle. Befriend your guilt, right? The more we say, well, right? So we have this, you should have remembered that it was picture day, right? So we forget picture day, then we feel awful that, right? And then I need to let that go, right? And so we have layers of mess, right? And so we have the feeling awful about picture day, the guilt that comes after that eats us away. And then that I need to stop, I need to stop, I need to stop, right? I'm advocating befriend your guilt, right? So say, yo, what's up? Oh, you're here again, right? And you're saying again that I don't look the way that I should look, that I shouldn't say the amount of words that I say, whatever it is, right? Reframe your perspective. Maybe there's like a 0% chance that you're a monster. There's 100% chance that the systems pieces of you're rushing, you're being pushed, you're not feeling heard, right? You're doing 10 more things that you can't actually physically handle, right? Are doing this with us. And so that's what I'm saying. Reframe your perspective, right? Know that maybe you forgot picture day because what is wrong with you? I don't believe that. I believe that maybe you forgot picture day because all these other things, right? Let go of imaginary enemies, right? When I think of imaginary enemies, I think of that mama pickup, right? I think of that lady on Instagram who, why? How does she make bread and I have 2 children who live with me. I barely survived dinner and she just made homemade bread and she has 4. How? Just walk me through how, right? I will never know how, right? Because I don't have full access to her experience. And so that's what I'm saying, imaginary enemies, right? Does she not have a good relationship with? Is she miserable in her body? Is she, right? Did she just get fired? I don't know any of that. And I likely never will. And so letting go of competing against other people and trying to, I call it inch ourselves, right? So how do I grow to my own +1? If I was this person yesterday, how do I move to my own +1 today? And follow the unreal. And boy, this is hard, right? Because we get sucked into, right? It's addictive behavior. So getting sucked into Instagram. And then soon enough, we're doing this and not even know that we're doing this, right? If you see an account that is triggering for you, one that's consistently triggering for you, how do you make that decision to, hey, no, thank you. We all have friends in real life who will call me, so I won this and I got this done and I made, right? And we're like, and follow the unreal in real life too, right? Not just social media. Outsource what you can. Maybe it's okay that the cake for the birthday party is made by someone else. Just put a decoration on it, move right along, right? Our children will not remember that we made the cake, right? Do you have to, right? And I will own it here. I will own it now. I am one who was like, oh, I saw that on Pinterest. And then soon enough, I'm trying to do 15 things for that birthday party that I saw on Pinterest. No, thank you, right? Maybe I don't have to make the cake. Maybe I can say, I'm going to make the cake because the cake is special for me, but I'm not going to make the decorations. Maybe I don't, I love crafting and I want to make the decorations. All right, the food somebody else will take care, right? And so that's where we go back to what fits for you, what fits for your landscape, divide that by 5, right? Acknowledge your humanity. Again, divide that by 5, right? Think of, if I were an ideal human, who would I be? If I were an 8 out of 10, who would I be? Okay, now right now I'm at a 7. What's real for me right now, right? And give yourself a break, right? It's so tough to show up for other people when we don't show up. I don't think it's even possible to show up for other people when we don't show up for ourselves, when we're feeling unheard, when we're feeling tired. So how do we show up for others? How do we start by saying, you know what, I actually need 5 minutes. I'm going to sit in my bedroom 5 minutes. I'll be right back. Even if the floor is a mess, even if they're fighting over a toy, even if the phone's ringing, right? How do you say, not for me, not right now, I'll be right back. 5, just 5, right? Because we eventually end up using those 5, right? The reflex is to say, I don't have those 5 minutes. Maybe. I think that I have an iPhone and the iPhone will tell you how much time you spend on social media every day. For me, way more than 5 minutes. So clearly there's a mismatch here between my excuses of no, right? I don't have 5 minutes for myself to go breathe compared to, but I just gave 30 minutes to people I don't even know on social media, right? And that's kind of where I'm saying, and how does showing up for myself then translate into showing up for other people? Let's stay in touch. If you have questions, if you're like, you said this thing, I don't know what that meant, or I don't like what you said. This is my experience and I just wanted to bounce this back. My email is on the screen. My phone is there too. Again, I have a website for my private practice. Reach out. It was nice to meet you.